Once the console has been booted up and logged in and it recalled the scene, you're ready to start mixing. And I wanted to discuss the channel layout. First, on the stage we have 5 jack panels with 8 microphones in each one. That's a total of 40. And the numbering convention on those is the far left on the back wall of the stage. It's panel A, which has inputs 1 through 8. Panel B, going to the right, panel B has inputs 9 through 16. To the right again, panel C has inputs 17 through 24. And to the right again, panel D has inputs 25 through 32. And then the jack panel at the front of the stage has inputs 33 through 40. All of those jack inputs have been input into the console inputs 1 through 40. However, that doesn't mean that that corresponds to the channel number, because you can see we only have a total of 24 faders. So that's why each fader bank has also multiple layers. And this is the layer buttons to the left. Layer A, B, C, D, E, and F for a total of 72 different fader strips, assignable fader strips for different inputs, outputs, etc. Same thing with bank 2. It has its own independent layers A through F to bring another 72 for a total of 144 fader strips, assignable fader strips for uses, inputs, outputs, etc. The arrangement of the fader strips to the left is primarily inputs for the Covenant user. To the right is primarily outputs, bus sends, etc. Let's go over the various layers. In bank 1 on the left, layer A has been assigned a series of Vox mics, as well as the first 4 effects returns, which will be used on the vocal mic so that they're all there in the same layer. Then by hitting layer B, you now see that those are the inputs for the guitars, the keys, and then also some miscellaneous inputs, iPod input left and right, and the CD input. And then if I go to layer C, you can see that these are labeled as jacks 21 through 24 and 33 through 38. And those are unused jacks that can be used for other things as needed. And that corresponds to the jack number on the stage. Layer D has all the drum inputs, has the percussion inputs. Layer E has the local inputs that are on the back of this console. Some are used, some are not. These are all the unused ones, labeled with the number that they are in the input, as well as 2 additional ones, input 13, 14 back is the AES, which we will not be using. And then playback is for the USB playback, which is located under here. It's a USB 3, and we'll go over how to use that. Layer F, we switch to layer F. Layer F is basically your 8 effects returns. So even though the first 4 of these are also on layer 4 here, they're also all on layer effects, or all on layer F, effects returns. So that if I turn, let's say, the first effect up, and I go back to layer A, you can see that that fader is up, because that particular effects return and anything can be assigned to more than one fader on the same or different layers. So it's a completely soft system, so you can assign what goes on what faders. So that is the left bank. Now let's look at the right bank. The right bank is set up with some additional inputs as well as DCAs, which control the overall volume of whatever is assigned into the DCA. In this case, on the right bank, on layer A, we have the DCA for all of the drums, a DCA for all of the percussion, all three of the percussion mics. We have the bass guitar direct here on the right. We have a DCA to control all of the guitars, acoustics, and electrics. We have a DCA to control the keys, which is piano and the two keyboards. And then we have a DCA for vocals, which will control all of the Vox mics. Then we have handheld 1, handheld 2, which are the two wireless handhelds. Carlin's Countryman mic. Then we have the computer audio. And then the last two are basically the main outputs. We have a mono front of house, which is this fader. And then we also have a stereo left and right, which these can be used simultaneously. The one on the right basically feeds, right now is feeding only the record function to the USB. It can be programmed for other things, but if you wanted to, this one right here needs to be up for front of house. That's the mono front of house. But if you were going to record in stereo, you could still record, and that output would go here. So it's set up as a stereo main out with a mono sum. So that means if you pan channels left or right, they will still sum together in the mono front of house out so that it's not in stereo, but you'll still get stereo imaging on your recording. Now let's look at the other layers. Layer B, as I hit layer B, you notice it changes, and it's mostly unassigned right now, but you'll also notice that you still have the handhelds, Carlin computer, mono front of house, and main left and right still active on layer B. Layer C, you can see layer C is all of the aux sends, the master sends for the aux. But you can also notice that the last four, Carlin computer, front of house, and stereo out, are still the same. And if I switch to layer D, you see that you have all 8 DCAs here. So even though these are assigned also to layer A, they're also all together on layer D for DCA. These 3 DCAs are not used and available to use. Layer E on this side is all of your groups, which none are being used at this particular moment. And then layer F on the bank 2 right bank is all of your effects sends. So if I wanted to mess with effects, the sends are on the right, the returns are on layer F on the left. So if both banks are on layer F, you'll see the sends there and the returns on the left.